What's going on? Welcome back to Off the Schneid. Today we're going to take a look at the Philadelphia Eagles heading into the 2022 NFL Draft. It's a big draft for this team. Obviously, they have the 2 first-round picks, and they picked up another one next year for a potential quarterback. We'll see. We'll get there in a second. So free agencies, for the most part, wrapped up. Trades are pretty much wrapping up. Things are still trickling in here and there, but for the most part, especially a team like this, they're shifting their focus towards the draft, their visits and everything like that. Obviously, you can see the team needs above there and then the draft capital above that. Tons of draft capital for this team, and they're going to be able to, they're another one of those teams that are going to be able to steer the draft a little bit, considering all of the picks that they have. 2 first-round picks, like I said, couple thirds, bunch of 5th-round selections, so they can definitely get they can move around if they want, with just capital from this year, and then add some playmakers and some difference makers to what was a playoff team last year. So let's talk about that. Like, a lot of people, are hating on let's talk about the quarterback. Let's start there because we always do anyways, but let's talk about that. Jalen Hurts, is the guy here. This is his 3rd year. And like him or not, he led this team to the playoffs. This was a playoff team last year. You don't move on from your quarterback, when you're a playoff team. And who's to say they're not a playoff team this coming season? I think that there's potential that this team wins the division. So, if they win the division with Jalen Hurts again, and not win again, but if they win the division with Jalen Hurts and they go to the playoffs again, they're not going to have that draft capital realistically to move on from them. I don't think. They might, but why? When I was thinking about the Bengals draft, when they drafted Joe Burrow, originally I was all over Jalen Hurts. He's the guy that I wanted before the college season even started, and Joe Burrow came out of nowhere. But when Jalen Hurts transferred to Oklahoma, I was saying, hey, the Bengals are going to be drafting Jalen Hurts. That's the guy that I want. Chase Young and Jalen Hurts were the 2 guys that I wanted for the Bengals. Obviously, things changed. Joe Burrow kind of came out of nowhere, and I would not change that. That's for obviously, I would not change that. But that was the guy. This is the guy that I wanted on my team. So I think that Jalen Hurts can get the job done. He's a little bit frustrating at times to watch, and I'm sure Eagles fans will think the same thing. There's definitely some frustration there, but again, he led this team to the playoffs, and that's all that matters. Winning cures everything. That's all that matters, is winning in the NFL. So if he's doing that, then what are we talking about? That's kind of what it is. So Gardner Minshew's the backup quarterback here. I am a big fan of Gardner Minshew, always have been. I would love to see him get an opportunity to start in the NFL again, whether that's for the Eagles or for another franchise. But he's a very good backup quarterback. Might be a top 5 backup quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. I think he deserves a shot to start again. So there you go. I really like Gardner Minshew, and he played well for this team when, 2 starts last year? He played very well for this team. Obviously had some good stats and was very close to being Rookie of the Year when he was a rookie with Jacksonville. Move to running backs here. Obviously, Miles Sanders is still there. He averaged 5.5 yards per carry. And we'll get there in a second, but the offensive line for this team is extremely good, which helps their running backs, obviously. Miles Sanders, like I said, 5.5 yards per carry. He struggled catching the ball a little bit, but that's why they brought in Kenny Gainwell, and he's one of the best pass catchers, I'm not going to say in the league, but he's a very quality pass catcher. I thought he was the best pass catching running back in the rookie class last year, that's for sure. But he's got to stay healthy. That's what it is with Miles Sanders. He has to stay healthy. He's been, banged up here and there throughout his NFL career so far, but he's been successful when he's been on the field. So he's just got to stay healthy. But they do have, like I said, Kenny Gainwell there for some depth, and I do think that they're going to have to add, a thumper, a finisher, like a Hassan Haskins, Brian Robinson, maybe, Kevin Harris, someone like that, a big body running back that they can get, later on in the draft, 4th, 5th round, something like that, maybe 3rd, depending on who you're getting. Maybe Brian Robinson in the 3rd, something like that. But anyways, it's a closer. I think they need a closer and a goal line guy. So that's what I think that they should look for in the NFL draft at the running back position. Move over to tight ends. Dallas Goedert is obviously still there, and he's now the number one, clear cut. Zach Ertz is gone. He's the tight end. And then Jack Stoll played a lot of snaps for this team, a lot of meaningful snaps. He's a very good blocker. I think he's probably underrated as a catcher. He didn't get too many opportunities to do so last year, but I think that he's a quality NFL tight end. I really do. But Tyree Jackson, former quarterback, is still there. You're hoping that he can be something, a Logan Thomas type of a guy. So we'll see how he develops at the position, but I think they're fine at tight end. I probably do not address it in the draft. I think they have some other needs that are more pressing, and it's just not a necessity whatsoever, in my opinion. So as long as they're healthy, you're good at tight end. Now let's move to that offensive line. Like I said, it is very, 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 very good. It's one of the better units in the league, obviously, when healthy, but even when they're not, they have a ton of depth here. We'll start at left tackle. Jordan Mailata and Andre Dillard can both be starters in the NFL. We've seen it from both of them. We've seen them both succeed. Landon Dickerson, he's going to be your center of the future. I believe that he takes over for Jason Kelce once he's, decides to retire. He's 34 right now. He's getting up there. Still very, 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 very good. But I think Landon Dickerson will take over at that center position eventually. And then let's keep going. Isaac Suamalo, I think I'm saying his name right. He's very good. There's nothing wrong with him. He's still young enough to be there for a long time, sort of thing. Lane Johnson, still extremely good. Very, very, very good. And then let's move to the depth where they have a ton of it, because I think even when some of these guys, like I said, Kelce, when he moves on, maybe Lane Johnson retires relatively soon, they have the depth already on the roster. Jack Driscoll played very well for this team, and I think he had like 9 starts. He had a few starts last year. Nate Herbig, when he's played, he's very good. Like I said, they have Andre Dillard there as well. So maybe I'm not saying they're like trying to force out or they're waiting for him to retire for Jason Kelce or anything, but Landon Dickerson kicks inside. Maybe Nate Herbig moves to left guard, or Dillard or Mailata move to left guard, something like that, and then you don't miss a beat. I do always think that you need to draft offensive linemen. Watch every one of my episodes and I say the exact same thing. So I think they need to address it, but it's not an issue. They can develop that guy. Jack Driscoll was a 4th round pick. I believe Nate Herbig was an undrafted free agent. Jordan Mailata was a 7th round pick. Jason Kelce was a 6th round pick. Suamalo, 3rd round pick, right? Like they can develop these guys. I don't think it's you can wait till the 4th, even 5th round. If you draft a guy that you can develop and it's going to take 2 years before he gets ready, that's fine. You're fine with that. So very good offensive line. It's a huge strength on this team, but you always have to add somebody, in my opinion. Kick it over to wide receivers. I do have it as a need, and it's very, very, very likely that they draft a wide receiver with one of those 2 first-round picks, 15th and 18th. There's Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, guys like that. Maybe Trey Burks if they like them. There's tons of names that they can grab one of those 3 guys, one of whoever, Olave. There's a lot of good quality wide receivers in this year's draft. I think they need to look at more of a slot receiver is what I would look for. They have Quez Watkins kind of penciled in as a slot receiver here. I don't think that he's that. I think he's just an outside burner. And then Devontae Smith is, I'm not going to call him like an alpha X wide receiver or anything like that, but he's more of a possession, good in slants, over the middle of the field type stuff, the medium and intermediate routes. Again, not an alpha. They could go that route and get like, if they, Drake London or something like that. I feel like he might be gone, but I don't know. I know they're going to draft a wide receiver, and it's going to be with one of those 1st round picks, I believe. We'll see what they feel like they need the most out of that position, if that makes sense. And then that will kind of clarify everything for me as far as where I think guys will play. You could even say that Devontae Smith is your slot receiver. You could say that, and then Quez Watkins is your outside burner, and then you have your true X receiver coming in this year's draft if it's someone like Drake London. So we'll see how it shakes out. I'm not settled on who I'll have them pick. keep an eye out for my mock draft coming out in hopefully 1 week to the day, and we'll see who I have them picking, because I'm very, very confident that they'll take a wide receiver. Zach Pascal comes over from the Indianapolis Colts. He's an NFL wide receiver. I wouldn't want him as my starter personally, but he's a quality receiver and he's an NFL wide receiver. Same with Greg Ward. Nothing wrong with him whatsoever. JJ Arcega-Whiteside's got to go. Former second-round pick. That was an absolute bust of a pick. He's going to be gone as soon as they can just let him walk. John Hightower, former fifth-round pick. Sure, he's still kicking around. But I think once they add one true, first round pick wide receiver in this year's draft, I think they're settled there. So it's a need, but not an extreme one. They just got to get that guy and then they're fine. Let's move over to the defensive side of the ball here. We're gonna work through this, and this team is kind of in flux a little bit as far as the defense is concerned. There's going to be some major turnover from what they've known for a ton of years here. Brandon Graham will likely be gone after this year. He's kind of declining. His best years are behind him. He had a very good career for this team. Won a Super Bowl. He is kind of declining though, and it's time for them to move on from him, right? And get that contract off the books, free up some money, that sort of a thing. Same thing with Fletcher Cox. Again, probably a Hall of Famer. Won some Super Bowls with this team. Very good player, all that kind of stuff. One of the best interior rushers for a time in the NFL with Fletcher Cox, but he is getting up there. He's kind of declining. It's time to turn it over. Derek Barnett never really got there. Former first round pick. He just never really developed. He never really got there. And there's a very, very good chance they move on from him this year. So that's obviously why I have defensive end as a massive need for this team, as the number one need. They've got to continue to get after the quarterback. And Josh Sweat had you could say a career year last year. And I think there's a good chance that he ends up starting for this team, but they're going to need another guy to help him out. They do have that help in the interior. Javon Hargrave, I want to touch on him, is fantastic. He's a very, very good player. And then Milton Williams, who a lot of people were comparing him to Aaron Donald. It's a little aggressive to compare anybody to Aaron Donald, but he can clearly play and there's a lot of potential there. So he can, slide into that Fletcher Cox role. But you're probably going to need a defensive tackle as well. I do have it as a need there. Marlon Tupalutu, probably just ripped apart his name. My apologies, but he's a sixth round pick last year, and you're hoping he can develop into a rotational guy, backup, depth guy, that sort of a thing. But I think we're going to see, like I said, some turnover on this, especially defensive line, after this season wraps up. So we'll move it back to the linebackers. Kazir White with the Chargers had a fantastic year last year. Very, very good season. He comes in, and then TJ Edwards is the other guy. He played well for this team. Davion Taylor was a guy that I liked out of the draft in 2020, former third-round pick. He played well, when called upon. He didn't play a full season. He wasn't a starter, nothing like that, but he had a very good season, and he can be that number 3, linebacker. I think he played safety in college. I could be wrong, and correct me in the comments if you'd like. But I think he played safety in college, and then he's kind of that hybrid, I'm not going to call him a nickel, but, pass coverage linebacker kind of a guy. So the quality there at linebacker with bringing in Kazir White, I think that kind of solidifies the linebackers in this defense. Moving it back to the defensive backs. Let's start with corners. Darius Slay is still very, very good. Very, very quality. And then the wild thing was the trades that they got with Tay Allen coming in and Kerry Vincent Jr., who were both rookies last year. It's kind of weird that both their teams, the Broncos and the Cardinals, kind of gave up on those guys and traded them away. And, obviously the Eagles were happy to take them on. I like Kerry Vincent. I think that he can be a guy. Tay Allen, I'm not a huge believer of, but maybe he can develop. We'll see how that works out. Zach McPherson, former fourth-round pick last year. He's got to develop a little bit, but I think he can get the job done. And then Avonte Maddox is a very good kind of nickel corner. He might be your starter. Hard to say how it all shakes out as far as, who's starting and who's playing every down for this team on the defensive back besides Darius Slay. But I think their quality here, as long as Kerry Vincent can develop into that guy, and if Tay Allen can get going, Josiah Scott, geez, another trade with the Jaguars. He comes in. So I think that they can develop these guys and keep it going. This is a quality defense, a very quality defense. Let's move to the safeties. I think Anthony Harris led this team in tackles. No, I could be wrong on that one. But either way, he's still good, but he's getting up there age-wise. He is getting up there age-wise. I think he's 31 years old, something like that. Kayvon Wallace, another guy that I liked out of the 2020 draft, former 4th-round pick. I do think that, he could get the job done, but if it's me, I'm probably bringing in a starter there. And then Kayvon Wallace is more of a depth backup special teams type of a guy. Obviously, they brought in Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, but I just don't think they had the money to sign him. I'm not sure if that's going to keep going, if they're going to clear up some space if they really like him. He still hasn't signed. I think that would be a phenomenal grab for this defense. Very good, and he plugs right in as your free safety right there. He does a little more than just a typical kind of free safety, more than just a center fielder. A very, very good leader, and Honey Badger is a fantastic football player, and I think he would be fantastic for this defense if they can get a deal done there. Like I said, I don't know if I said it or not, but I think they only have $11 million or so in cap space right now, but that could obviously change quite easily if they want to make it happen with him. But we'll see how that shakes out. If I'm an Eagles fan, I very much hope that the Honey Badger comes in and is a part of my team, and that would just make this defense complete. The guy that I'm really curious about is Hassan Reddick. He's absolutely succeeded in the NFL as a pass rusher. Usually it's as an outside linebacker, as an edge rusher kind of a thing. That isn't how they run their defense in Carolina, and he was good there, but it was a system that he already knew from his Temple days. The Arizona Cardinals misused him horribly until, out of necessity, they let him do what he's good at, and he obviously succeeded. Are they going to misuse him here? I don't know. That's the big question that I'm going to have with Eagles kind of games and watching them play on this, watching him play in this defense. Are they going to misuse him? I don't know. We'll see how that works out, and hopefully he's good for this team. He can be like kind of like a Micah Parsons for this defense and be that kind of Mike linebacker and a mismatch nightmare and just come in on blitzes and wreak havoc in the backfield. I don't know. I don't know. I really think that he's a very good football player, and you can do a good defensive coordinator, a creative defensive coordinator can do a lot of good things with him. He's a move aroundable guy, if that makes sense. So there you go. That's about all I got for the Philadelphia Eagles. Like I said, keep an eye out for the mock draft coming out. The Eagles are going to be able to steer this thing in the middle rounds. The Giants are going to be able to steer it a little bit in the top 10. The Eagles in 15 through 25 sort of a thing, 12 through 22, something like that. They're going to steer the draft a little bit. So it's a big draft for the Eagles. I think that their potential is there for them to win this division and be a playoff team again. We'll see. But there you go. Let me know what you think in the comments. There's your breakdown for the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles.